If you do watch Arthur and Merlin, remember that it is just a little bit better than Guy Ritchie's King Arthur.
Yeah.
Geek Speak, the definitive 365 cut. These are the meaningless ramblings of a Scottish we-done whore and a pissy ex-video store clerk. Their ongoing mission is to set right the movie wrongs. They're gonna need a bigger podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the 365 Flicks podcast. I am Kevin, the pissy ex-video store clerk, and I am back with a brand new track. Yes, the podcast, 365 Flicks podcast. I'm back, and it is another indie talk, and I am by myself again. Chris, as I have explained a couple of times in past episodes, is working an absolute shed load. I have been furloughed, he has not. You could say I am the lucky one, although I've kind of been back to work a little bit now. It's all kind of going back to normal, isn't it? It's not going to take long. So Chris will be hopefully on an episode very soon. We will be doing our regular schmegular. He has been tidying up the studio, got all of his workplace office shit out of there, so it's looking like a pod studio again. I cannot wait to get back in there and sitting across from my good friend Christopher. Yes, I can't wait for that. It's going to be awesome. But this is an indie talk, and I am going to be joined by the wonderful Giles Alderson. You may have heard me mention this man before. He does a podcast called the Filmmakers Podcast. It's a podcast that I absolutely love. I've raved about before. I've been listening since, well, by the way, we're coming up on like 5 or 6 years now, which is mental. Who thought we'd be doing it that long? But we are. So Giles came on because I've been speaking to him for a long time. I've been wanting to get him on the show because he is also a director, actor, producer, filmmaker, sings the theme tune, writes the theme tune. I've been trying to get him on. Well, we've been talking back and forth for a while, but one of the movies he had that he was working on was like a passion project that had been taking a good 3 to 4 years to get going. It is now out in the US, not quite out over here yet. I believe that is October, November. It's around about then. I'm still pretty pissed off it's now over here. And he has a movie that is also coming out on July the 13th. Funny that, he does like a little bit of a studio movie that's sort of more of a low-budget independent studio movie that he made last October and is now about to come out in July. Even the pandemic couldn't stop this movie coming out. Nah, he's Arthur and Merlin, the Knights of Camelot, is on its way out next week. This has been, I had to get him on because finally 2 movies that he's been working on. A third movie, The World of Darkness, which is a sort of documentary type movie. He's just smashing it. They're all coming out at the same time. He's been plugging away at it, and then all of a sudden 3 of his movies are dropping roughly around about the same time. So it was time to get him on and talk about how he got into the filmmaking business, why you got into the filmmaking business, and everything else. If you haven't heard the Filmmakers Podcast, I do recommend you go and listen to it. It's kind of what we do with the indie talks, but like way more insightful, I guess. Interesting, most likely. Because Giles does have a filmmaking background. He does know what he's talking about, but at the same time, he is learning. He's like a sponge with these guests. He's learning from them as well. So it's great to listen to those episodes. So please do go and have a listen to that, the Filmmakers Podcast on Facebook. You'll find it on Facebook, on YouTube. Get yourself onto the iTunes and all those things. Another super duper easy way, because this is a crossover. Yeah, this is a nerdly.co.uk crossover. Phil Wheat houses about 6, maybe 7 podcasts on the nerdly.co.uk website. It's Filmmakers Podcast and 365 Flicks Podcast are 2 of them. And by the way, History of Bad Ideas is also on there. So that's 3 awesome podcasts. But we are definitely the bastions of his website, I like to call us, because we are awesome. And Giles is on there, we're on there, and Hobie's on there. And please do go and check out that website, and you'll be able to check out everything else. We are the 365 Flicks Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Libsyn, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places, YouTube, which we don't really pimp out too much. Just type in 365 Flicks Podcast on any pod catching app and you will find us. Please do, if there is a rate and review system, drop us 5 stars, 10 out of 10, whatever you want. Just drop us a lovely rating, and then if you want to talk shit about us in the comments, that's perfectly fine. It's just easier to swallow with a 5 stars. Please do that. That's awesome. You can also find us all over the social medias. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's pretty much it. At 365 Flicks Pod. If you type that in, you will find us. Please do like and comment and just share all of the ridiculous stuff we say. Please do that. That's awesome. So yeah, we're on some pretty handy networks as well. The Tangible Network, the Danger Entertainment Network, they look after us. Wicked Radio Network, which is kind of now defunct, but I still like to talk about it because they're my boys. Websites such as Geeks Worldwide, Geeky Antics Network Global. We're all over the place. Nerdly.co.uk is the one that I champion because we love Nerdly and Phil looks after us. Trying to work out a little project with Phil for the website, so we'll see how that goes. That would be awesome. But this is Giles Alderson, director of The Dare, which I can't wait to see. Director of Arthur and Merlin, Knights of Camelot, which I have seen and I did enjoy. Great film. We will talk about that quite a bit. He also was producer on a movie you've heard me rave about many times, Serial Killer's Guide to Life, and he also does the Make Your Film webinars and seminars with friend of the show, Dom Lenoir. So there's a nice little connection there. I totally, thoroughly enjoyed speaking to Giles. It's been absolutely brilliant. The man is so cool. Nice little insight into the British indie filmmaking industry. So he's got some nice things to say and some interesting. So please do listen to the episode. Go and find Giles on Facebook, Twitter. Give him a like, give him a follow, shoot him a message. He's really approachable. Guy's awesome. This has been a long time coming, and I'm glad we finally did it. So interview in progress.
An army is nothing without his father's guidance, the king's guidance. There is no king without Excalibur.
Who's the fortunate lady?
Queen Guinevere.
But she is already wed to our king.
You will marry me, or I will kill you.
My body is no more yours than the throne.
What is my cause, Merlin? I fought a war, and the reason has been lost.
What better reason than home?
He does not fight so others can rest. He does not survive because he fears death. He endures.
Lancelot! Right, on this episode, I've been looking forward to having this man on. This man is an actor, producer, director, writer, editor, podcaster, sings the theme tune, writes the theme tune, and an all-round bloody nice bloke, Giles Alderson. And this is kind of a nerdly.co.uk crossover as well. Yeah, how are you doing, Giles? How are you tonight?
I am very good, thank you so much for having me on. I've loved your podcast for so long. That's obviously how we connected, like when I first started podcasting, and connecting with you guys because you love film and I love listening to your podcast. And yeah, we're both on the Nerdly website as one of their podcasts. I think they've got 6 or 7, and we're there as their champion podcast. Yeah, Nerdly.
Bastions of Nerdly.
Yes. The underlings.
This is absolutely fantastic, Giles. I've been listening to you for the Filmmakers Podcast for some time now, as you know, because I always comment and everything. And you've finally got movies coming out or have come out over the last few months that you can talk about, and it's like, yes, let's get him on, let's speak to him, let's get this done.
Yeah, it's amazing because obviously I've been talking about it on the Filmmakers Podcast, like, hey, I've got a film coming out, I've been making a film, and finally now they're actually all out or coming out, and it's like, it's a huge sigh of relief, because you work so hard on these things, and like, yeah, soon the movie's coming out. I think I started the podcast 3 years ago, and I'd shot The Dare by then. I'm like, yeah, The Dare is coming out soon. The next week, The Dare is coming out soon. 3 months later, The Dare is coming out. 3 years later, I think it's out in October. It might...
You've always kept the enthusiasm going for it, which is awesome. But it must be a little bit frustrating, because I will admit, there has been times when I'm listening to the podcast and you'll mention The Dare, or well, Dare really, and it's sort of like, it's coming out soon, and I'm sort of sitting there thinking, is it though?
Yeah, is it though? Is it really? Is he ever going to put a film out?
Because you do hear of movies that kind of fall by the wayside often, but I'm glad this one is finally hit the streets. So
yeah, thank you, man. Me too. It was a labour of love. It was just one of those things why it took so long. It was a studio movie as well, which is incredible for my debut as a director. Even though technically I'd made the feature documentary, not technically, I had made a feature documentary. So it was around that same time. And that came out almost like 3 months later. And that's called World of Darkness, all about vampires and Vampire the Masquerade and role-playing games. And it did really well, in that world. It was just really cool. And The Dare just took ages. We had some pickups to do, but we couldn't do them straight away because Rambo was filming. And then what else was filming? We had Hellboy was finishing up, and they had to do pickups. And then London Has Fallen were finishing, so we couldn't get in any of the studio spaces, or if we could, my actors were busy, because suddenly they all got, they're all very established or up and coming actors, and suddenly they got, The Witcher or Mary Kills People or God knows what else, 1917, and suddenly you're going, oh, you're competing with them, and they've got them locked down for a year. So it was really difficult to get everyone's timing together at the same point. And there was one scene we had to pick up, and we didn't film it because it snowed, like really heavily. And we shot in Bulgaria, in the Bulgarian studio, this fantastic place called Ljubljana Studios. And they've got New York sets and London sets, and it's just a fantastic place to shoot. There's cameras everywhere, there's people making movies, Gerard Butler walking around, Antonio Banderas, hello, hi. And you had just wonderful, like a dream for a filmmaker to go there. And so on this day that we're filming sort of the big end scene, if you like, and it snowed so heavily we couldn't even get up there, and it was up in the mountains bit of the studio. So he said, okay, don't worry, we'll pick this up. And I was like, I'm now going to have to edit a movie with no ending, which is just horrendous anyway. Like, oh God. So a year later, when we managed to do some of the pickups, because we had to separate them up, the day before, someone said to me, it looks like it might snow tomorrow. And I went, you're joking. They said, no. Oh, lo and behold, an hour later, it started snowing, the heaviest snow you've ever seen. So, which meant that the next day, the same thing, we're going to have snow on the same scene that we needed. So what did we do? We decided to shoot in snow. Nice. We rethought the things. Do you know what? This could work in snow. Why not? They've been inside on the ground for so long, because the Dare is set inside sort of a farmhouse, if you like, and there's 4 people trapped in there, and there's various things going on upstairs, and can they escape, can they not? It sounds simple, it's not. There's a lot of layers and ups and downs to all that. So we thought, well, it could have snowed during that time, and we had to be honest, it's like, well, we've got everyone here, we're going to have to shoot this scene. So we did. We shot in the snow, and it looked amazing. We ended up redoing it anyway, but that's not the point. The point is, it's just fascinating, isn't it, how a year later, on exactly the same day when you're supposed to be shooting the same scene, the same thing happened. But yeah, there was just such a joyous shoot and so much fun, but that was one reason it got delayed, and the other reason was just it's a studio. They want to put it out when they want to put it out, and they've got big movies coming out, and suddenly you're behind the chain. It's not like an independent movie where you go, well, we need to get it out here. They're going, well, it doesn't matter. Hellboy's coming out then, and then that's coming out then, and this, and you're further down the line. So, and we haven't got a distributor yet, so we don't know. And you're like, oh my gosh. So it was a lot of pain and hurt and anguish, and me going, it's coming out soon type thing. And and people not having the right haircuts as well when you're going back to do pickups, because why would they? That was tough. But we made it work, and I'm delighted to say the movie came out in March, The Dare, in North America, so Canada, and all across the US states, and did very, very well. And it did cinemas in Holland and Hong Kong, and made quite big chunk of money for someone. Not me, but yeah, it did really, really well, which is amazing. So let's talk of a sequel now, which is fantastic. So me and Johnny Grant are busy.
That must be quite an incredible feeling for you.
It's mind-blowing that I could have a little idea in my little office here in my loft, and it becomes a movie that people can see in cinemas. Is just, it's mind-blowing. It's incredible. Amazing feeling.
That's awesome, man. We're going to get into the dare in a little bit, but we're kind of here tonight because your next feature, Arthur and Merlin, the Knights of Camelot, is hitting the streets in July, a couple of weeks, actually.
July 13th, yeah.
13th, yes. So we'll be talking about that as well, and we're going to dive into some of your other projects as well. But first of all, Giles, the question that I've been asking a lot of people recently, obviously because of the current global situation and everything, is how have you been coping with the whole pandemic, the lockdown, and I mean, it sounds like you've been super busy during the lockdown anyway, but how's it sort of been affecting you, like career-wise?
It's weird. I don't know. I am one of these people who likes to keep busy. I like to keep active and creative as much as I can. What's been really tough is not being able to go out and go shoot something or go make an advert or a promo or whatever to keep the wolf from the door. But I haven't stopped creating stuff. So constantly been writing new stuff, finishing up scripts that were just about or there. So it was like, right, let's really focus on them. And now they're in really, really good shape. Getting vision packs ready, working out what's next, all that kind of stuff. So talking to producers, really spending a lot of time working out as a filmmaker what is next.
Yeah.
And that's been really interesting because people's time has been, it's not like you can make them an excuse and go, I might be there. Oh, let's meet up in Cannes. No, there's none of that. It's like, well, I know you're in your house. So if I'm not coming around knocking on the door, but I'm knocking via email and hello, let's talk. And yeah, there's a lot of doors have opened. And I think because I've now had 3 movies out this year, or will, it has opened a lot of doors, and that's been incredible. From, like we say, that whole struggle time of waiting for a movie to come out, and now suddenly they do, has been, really, really cool. Really cool. And I can't wait for people to see Arthur and Merlin. I can't wait. I'm excited. I can't wait to talk about it with you as well. And I'm so glad you watched it and saw it. I think you might be the first person outside my group who I've spoken to who's seen it. So I'm looking forward to what you
And I've not told you anything about what.
No, you haven't. You haven't as well.
So this interview might go south.
It really might. I might be emigrating.
No, don't worry about that.
Or I might be coming up there.
So I like that. So how when we are kind of coming out of the situation now, and the quarantine's kind of semi sort of over. I mean, Boris is calling tomorrow Super Saturday. How do you see your job as a filmmaker changing coming out of this, like sort of set life? Yeah,
I think it's going to change for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just everyone's got to be safer. That whole camaraderie that you have on a set, for me as a director, it's wonderful because you can go, you've been to the makeup department for a little bit and talk about what you're doing the next day. If you've got a big thing to do, you can go into the costume and go, how are we going to, if these are getting soaked tonight in the lake, how are we going to do this tomorrow, and what processes, what that looks like. And that freedom is amazing. And just to go around all the sets, the art department, whatever, and talk about the next day, that's going to be restricted now into zones and times of when you can do that. So you won't just be able to run over there and go, hey, have you got that prop? It'll be very much a strategic thing. So it's going to change, because that's a wonderful thing doing that on set. Unless things like change massively and we find some sort of cure, or there's ways of, I don't know, but I think it's not going to go back to normal for a long time. So we're just going to have to be aware that it's going to be different and just embrace it and go, okay, this is going to be different. Let's just do it that way. All right, cool. And everyone will be much more segregated, and that's not fun for everyone, but we get to make a movie, and then over time things might go back to normal. But I think it's been a tough time for a lot of people, mentally as well as physically, not being able to go out and being active. And I love being active. I love my football, and I miss that, and I miss so much being on set. Just constantly worrying the brain. Sitting at this seat is nowhere near as much fun. But I do think we're just going to have to think outside the box, and people who love watching films are going to have to really appreciate what people are doing now to get movies to them. You know, how we got King Arthur or Arthur and Merlin to everyone is that we finished it up when we were in quarantine. So the final bits of post we had to do, the final bits of grade, sound mix, everything was done in our houses. So something was sent to me, I would look at it and then send it back with my notes. And as much as you can make a movie that way, it's much more fun and much more interactive and creative if you sat next to each other, looking at each other, going, oh, let's tweak that. Oh, how about that? It's much harder to do that in an email. So, but we did it, and we got it done on time, and the team were amazing. The whole team who made the movie, just, I can't thank them enough. Just brilliant.
No, that's cool. And in the lockdown, have you written a lockdown movie? Because I feel like we're going to be having lots of these coming out of the woodwork.
No, I didn't, and I don't think people should. Unless you made one during this time.
Yeah,
I know Fizz and Ginger did, Matt and Tori Butler, how brilliant, fair play. But to write one now and try and get it made, and by 2 years' time, or 3 in case of the day when it might come out, are we really going to want to watch these movies? And I personally think, you're shaking your head, that I think we should personally take time and make comedies and really think about those kind of scripts that are much more entertaining. We want to be entertained, right?
Definitely.
We don't want to sit and watch something that we've just been through for the last... That's my personal take. Hey, someone might make an amazing movie, but if there's 100 of these, it's like... It's after Lock, Stock. Loads of Lock, Stock movies came out, and we got bored within... 6 of those, less maybe. So I'd suggest not doing that. And no, I didn't do that at all. I didn't entertain that idea.
I absolutely agree with you with the sort of lighter-hearted sort of comedy road, because at the start of this lockdown, I kind of spoke a couple of episodes back where I think I had Mike on, and we were talking about how you're saying about the mental health and everything. And at the start of this whole thing, I just took a severe dive. I was just like, this is the apocalypse right now. Mm-hmm. And I was watching the news every 2 minutes. Yeah. And then Dom, your good
Dom
friend,
Lenoir, yeah,
Dom Lenoir, sent me an email and asked me if I would like to check out a low budget British film called Soundtrack to 16. Perfect. And I'll tell you something. At that point in time, that was the exact movie that I needed to watch. It just lifted my spirits to no end, even though it's kind of about teenage angst and everything. But like instantly, I just felt better. And
yes.
So we do need more and more comedies coming out the woodwork. So I'm glad to hear you say that. Definitely.
I agree with you. I think we've all taken a massive hit during this time, all of us.
100%.
And I think anything to keep our spirits up, and we all need to support each other during this time and know that some people have gone through much harder than others, and be respectful of that and really try and help each other as much as we can, because boy, has it been hard, and who knows where the next bit of money's coming from, who knows where the next film's coming from, or work in general. You can't even get a job in Sainsbury's at the moment. So I think we've really got to be careful about the next films we make and make sure that they're entertaining and people want to watch that. I know I do.
Definitely, man, definitely. So, enough of the depressing stuff. Let's get into a little bit about Mr. Giles Alderson.
Please, I'd love to know.
First of all, I really want to know how you... I found you through the podcast, through the Filmmakers Podcast and everything, but I really want to know how you actually got into the industry and the movie world itself, and I guess the big question, why?
I think it's a great question. Why? God, who knows? I was lucky enough to land in this industry through being not good at anything else at school. I think it's the best way to put it. I wanted to be a footballer. All I cared about was being a footballer. And I played for Bradford City Youth all the way up School of Excellence. And I was a goalkeeper, and I dislocated my shoulder playing basketball. I was quite decent at basketball. I was tall enough to play. But yeah, that was it. The careers teacher said, what else do you do? And I said, nothing. I'm going to be a footballer. She went, yeah, all right. But what else do you want to do? And I said, nothing. She said, all right, well, I've heard you in the school play. You were quite good, apparently, so I'll put you on this course. And that was it. I went and did a course in performing arts, and I fell in love with the idea of creating stuff and being, an actor and a filmmaker. And yeah, I acted for about 15 years and did some really nice TV and films like Damned United and I Want Candy and TV of Coronation Street and all that sort of stuff, and some good dramas. And during that time, I started writing. I was always writing, putting on plays, and I was at the Royal Court Young Writers Programme and Soho Theatre putting plays on. And everyone kept saying, you should direct film, you should put this into film. And I just said, no, I'm an actor. I don't want to do it that way. It's fine in theatre, but this way is different. I just didn't see it. And then we were making a pilot for the BBC, and the director couldn't do it last minute. And I said, fine, I'll do it. And it's the best thing I've ever done in terms of not quality, but in terms of me falling in love with directing. And I just went, oh my gosh, this is what it is. Oh my, wow. You can control where the camera moves, certain actors' positions, performances, you can play with that in the edit. And I just was like, this is a job? Acting, sod that. That's just hit your mark, have to try and look good all the time, be nice to people all the time. And it was I just got too much of it. And directing was a different way out of my creativity and what I love to do. And I could write my own stuff and create it. And again, I was still acting for a long time, but I was still trying to direct, because the crossover, no one takes you seriously at that point, certainly not 10 years ago. Oh, you're a director now, are you? Yeah, all right, good luck. And it just took that time to be, oh, you're a director now. And start directing stuff. And it took about 8 years, I think, before I made my first feature. During that whole time, I was trying to make a feature.
Yeah, you had a few shorts in there, though, as well. Loads
of shorts, loads of promos, brand media. Yeah, some of the shorts did really well. But again, when I went to make my feature, The Dare, the first one, it was as if I'd never been on a movie set before. Shorts didn't matter at all. They didn't care whether I'd never been on set before. They wanted to know I could tell this story. So it was, as much as it was a brilliant grounding for me, and I'm so glad I did it, it's the importance I put on those things at the time should have been about me learning and becoming a better filmmaker and a person, rather than, oh, well, this short's amazing, therefore I'm going to go here. It's very unlikely unless you get an Oscar-winning short. And even then, I know people who've won Oscar for their shorts who haven't gone on to necessarily any kind of filmmaking.
It's not guaranteed, is it?
There you go. So, that's my journey crammed into, what did I do it in that 3 minutes or something?
That was quite good. That was like an elevator pitch. I like that. So I guess
ask me any questions.
I guess that answers pretty much my my next question, which
all right, cheers then, goodbye.
so my next question was basically, obviously it sounds to me like, from what you've just said, that you do much prefer being behind the camera than in front of it and creating the project and everything. What is your absolute favourite thing about being the director, though?
I love working with actors, and I think that definitely comes from being an actor and understanding their mindsets. But it's kind of slightly psychological. It's slightly therapeutic as well. You've really got to understand. Every actor is different. Every person's different, and some people like to be almost told what to do, and some people like a tiny little word or a buzzword or a phrase or something that gets their mind into the right zone. And obviously you've rehearsed it and you've practiced and you've gone through every meaning and phrase before that point. But that's what I love. I love watching the performance, either through the camera or watching it with my eyes, of them transforming by one little moment or one little phrase, or getting the truth of the scene, and knowing I can cut that together and make them look the best they can be. And that's what it's about. It's making tell the story through the characters the best you can, however that is. Even if that's just on your iPhone, even if that's just one close-up to the next close-up, well, that's totally fine, as long as you're telling the story and the characters mean something, and what they're saying means something. And that comes from trust and talking to your actors in the right way and your crew in the right way, so that you get the performances and the camera movements, if you like, art department, in the best way, because then your film holds up. It makes sense. It's not just point the camera this way and that way. It's actually got meaning and heart. And that's what I love. It's magical when it happens. Magic.
It's great that you pick that particular point. We kind of secondhand, maybe Chris and I kind of got sort of the same thing when we were visiting a set. I mean, it wasn't our movie, but whatever. But
pretend it is. No one knows. Mate, it's your movie. You've got credits now.
We were visiting a set, and we got to see a scene where the actress really kind of, she absolutely lost herself in the scene, and she was gone. The scene was super emotional. It was sort of like a death scene. Totally got lost in it. And me and Chris were sort of like stood there behind the monitors, watching the director, watching her. And I kind of just looked at Chris, and he looked at me exactly the same time, and we went, fuck. That was... And then I looked down at the director, and he looked at his first AD exactly the same way I just looked at Chris and went, fuck.
Amazing. There you go.
So, yeah, I know what you're saying.
And that's trust. And that's, you know, if that was Tom's set, it was about Tom getting her in the right frame of mind to trust that she could do that. Yeah. And it would be safe. It'd be a safe environment for him or her to go to that place where they get totally lost in the character, but yet they're not so lost that they lose the plot, so that there's a blanket around them straight after in terms of the warmth of everything around them. So it feels the best place you want to be. And any actor would tell you that's what they want. They want to be reassured. They want to know they're doing the right thing. And you hear these stories of actors kicking off and big problems with bigger actors and whatever. It's because they don't feel safe. If they know that the director is in control of what they want and understands what they want from the scene and their performance and their character arc throughout the whole movie, and they're not going to push over, they're not, strong enough, then that's where the problem is. But if they are, that's where you win, and that's where you get performances like you saw, because you've talked about it and you're all on the same page.
Definitely, man, definitely. It's cool to see. I love to see.
Oh, I bet. I love it when it happens. It's honestly, you can't put it into words how amazing, because you know you're going to get all the credit for that or whatever. It's like at the end of the day, you go, oh yeah, I directed it brilliantly. And this, no, they delivered, and that's what I love about actors, and that's why, what they go through. And people forget that sometimes, what an actor goes through. They're really, especially if it's an emotional scene, how are they supposed to step out of that? And can we just go again? Can you cry again? What? You know what I mean? Oh, let's go again. There was a problem with the camera. Focus was wrong. You're joking me. So you've got to work like clockwork, and everyone's got to trust each other. And yeah, man, when you get it right, and I would rather have a performance that might be out of focus at a point, that is the killer performance, than a performance that's okay, but it's totally pin sharp, because it's all about the story. You don't mind. It's not the end of the world to you if it's slightly out of focus, but the performance sells. We've all watched terribly shot movies that are brilliantly performed. Yeah. There's so many of them, but it works, and actors are vital within that.
I bet there's that many directors out there that wouldn't do that. They'll be like, nah, it's out of focus. Go again.
Well, true. Yeah. Because it's for them, sometimes they're much more visual directors. And because I come from the theatre background and the performance-based background, I'm much more about performance. The camera's a huge part of that, but it's like, well, performance is amazing now. I'm going with that. So you should have been sharp, mate. That's you know what I mean? Whoever it is. Because, performance is key.
So while you've been doing your acting and now directing and everything like that, you have been plugging away at the Filmmakers Podcast, a podcast I would like to pimp out, because I've mentioned it many a time. I absolutely love the show. And I love your rapport with the directors, the writers, the producer, everybody that you have on. You make it really interesting to listen to these people as well, because your insight and your knowledge as well, coming from that kind of background and everything, is just phenomenal. But I would like to know, why podcast?
It's a great question. It started off as I really wanted to help independent filmmakers, because by that point I'd made a movie and produced another movie and was producing another movie and whatever. So I was in a position where I at least had some knowledge, and I'd gone through 8 to 10 years of hell of trying to make one. So I wanted to slightly give back. But then there's also the other selfish reasons, is I wanted to promote the work I was doing. And what I realized over that time was that actually I could promote other people's work, and I could learn from doing these podcasts myself. If I'm talking to, a huge screenwriter, David Klepp, or, Christy Wilson Cairns, who's written 1917, I'm going to learn from that. And plus I've got a contact from that. If I'm talking to Neil Marshall or Fernando Morales, director of The Two Popes, I'm going to learn from him. Definitely. And I'm in a room with these amazing people talking as an equal about filmmaking. Mm-hmm. So it works on both ways. It's brilliant for me because I learn. It's brilliant for me because I can help other filmmakers get their projects out there, and I can also talk about my projects in some small way that I try and do it less and less because it just sounds silly all the time. But all I need to do is mention it. Say, look, the Dare's out, by the way. If you want to watch it, watch it. But I think in a couple of weeks, well, when Knights of Camelot comes out, I'm going to do a full cast and crew, sort of full on, beginning to end, what happened for you on this. So that's kind of a one-off, but that's the main reason. Podcasting is a brilliant medium. It's a brilliant way of getting your voice out there about how you can make films or how you can make pottery or do anything. If you're passionate about it, the more you talk about it, the better you become, right? Because you have to learn about it. You can't make it up.
It's one of the things I love when I'm listening to you as well. You kind of, every now and then, you'll be talking to someone like some of the people you've just mentioned there, and they'll say something, and then you can sort of hear the Giles wheels turning, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. That's so interesting. And it's kind of like, yeah, you are learning as you interview these people. It's fantastic to listen to. I have 3 podcasts that every week I have to listen to, and Filmmakers is on there, and I'm not just because you're on.
No, it means the world to me. Thank you. Yeah, I love doing it. I really do. And I love everyone who listens to it, and you get lovely comments and feedback. And as I'm sure you do, of just, like I say, you're giving something away for free, basically. This is free. So, hey, please, like, support and share it. 365 Flicks, please like, share, and support. Honestly, though, send Kevin a message and say thank you so much.
Yeah,
why not?
I'm with you there. Me personally, one of my favorite episodes that you've done was your 2-part episode with Paul Knight.
Yeah,
just the level of openness and frankness that you got out of him during that episode, those 2 episodes, was unbelievable. Like, he showed a lot of trust in you there because he was going in on it.
He went in. I think we had to cut some out because he went in even further. And the new one we did with him when he talked about 24 hours. Yeah, again, he went in. And sometimes you go, well, this might not be good for you. Paul's amazing. He doesn't mind. He's like, oh, say it to their face. I don't care. But it's funny that. No, I love doing that podcast. In fact, the Neil Marshall one I had to cut out because he said some stuff. And I was like, I can't keep that in. I don't want to be one of those podcasts that becomes guess he said that and that slagged them off and that. And I said, no, it's about filmmakers and making. I don't want to be that scandalous podcast that, he found out some dirt. It's not interesting to me.
I always have to check as well. I'm sure you do the same thing and everything when you're listening back and editing to it, and you kind of message them and you say, so at roughly this point, you kind of said this. Do you want me to leave it in or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because sometimes I know though. As soon as they start talking about it, I'm like, I'm just going to take that out.
Yeah.
But most of the time these days, it's usually fine because we've got to same as you now. You've got to a point where you can talk great, interesting questions, but also get the best out of your guests and find out what makes them tick. Yeah, Paul Knight was a great one. If you want to listen to any of those episodes, by the way, we've done this new thing on the website where you can type in someone's name and it'll come up straight away. So it took ages to work out, but we've done it now. So if you like Paul Knight, just go to Filmmakers Podcast and then just write in Paul Knight and all his episodes will come up.
The wonderful episodes, the 2 of them are fantastic. But what is, can you think off the top of your head, what has been your favourite interview that you've done on the podcast?
Oh, that's mean because there's so many.
I know it's mean, that's why I'm asking.
You listen to this podcast as well. Like Tom for one, Tom Patton. Paul Knight's one that I often come back to. We did a top 10, I think, and Paul Knight was up there. So because of the drama, I made it into 2 parts, and I made the drama of what's going to happen type thing. I did write the list, but it's not near me. I'm gonna 1 minute. Some of my favorite people in the world have been on. The Christy Wilson Cairns one for me was amazing because we got so much out of her I didn't think we'd get out of her, and she was hilarious, and we were funny with her. Do you know what? Sometimes everyone's funny in the room, and yet we still got gems of absolute knowledge. And then there's other ones which I really like, which talk about distribution, which aren't funny at all, but are really serious about, look, this is the best way to distribute a movie. So they're all different, but some people, just indie filmmakers that are just a really fun episode, and others that are just informative. So thanks for putting me on the spot, but I can't give you an answer.
I would be exactly the same if you asked me. I would not be given an answer because it would be unfair.
You'd say the Giles Alderson episode.
Oh, definitely. I will after today, definitely. I mean, this has definitely been one of my most sought after, sort of wanting to get you on the show and actually speak to you properly. And because we talk all the time through Twitter and through the DMs and everything, but it's like to actually sit down and speak to you. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So let's talk about some of your movies.
Yeah.
I would love to start with The Dare.
Okay.
Obviously, I can't say too much about this because I've not seen it, because you've only released it in America, which is pants, by the way.
Thank you. It's not my fault.
To start with, actually, why is that? Is it because of the studio? They want to release it in America first, or
no? How it works is a sales agent will sell it to a distributor.
Yeah.
And each distributor's in their own territory. So there'll be one in the UK, one in America, one in Hong Kong, one in Sweden. And they will choose when to put it out. Now, normally, if it's a big release, let's say a Bruce Willis film, they'll usually put it out at the same time because they can piggyback on that promotion.
Yes.
If it's not a huge release, they don't need to do that. And they can choose when they want to put it out. So as you'll find, sometimes you'll not have heard a movie you saw a year ago, or suddenly they'll promote that it's out in Timbuktu or whatever, because each distributor puts it out when they choose. You can't control that at all, because we spoke to Lionsgate, who are releasing The Dare in October in the UK, and said, look, it's coming out in the US in March. Should we not jump on, piggyback on all this great promotion we'll have for it? And they said, no, we want to do it as a Halloween special. So no. I went, okay. And someone else said, no, but that's a good thing, because now you're staggering the release. The Dare can sort of linger for a bit longer.
Yeah, but for you, that's been a 3-year staggered release.
Well, it'd be 4. By the time it actually, October will be, I was in deep prep about to shoot in that 4 years ago, in that October coming up. So, man, that 4 years has killed me. But... and there's been nothing worse. Like I say, that's why sometimes on the podcast I'll go, on The Dare, only you can watch it if you're in the US and Canada. Whereas A Serial Killer's Guide to Life, I can go, you can watch it wherever you are in the world. So yeah, great promo. It was, The Dare was just a joy, because to get any movie made is the best thing in the world, because it is so hard. I thought it was going to fall down even up to the last minute making The Dare. Because it happened so many times to me to try and make a film before. I had projects taken away, fall down. So what I wanted to do with The Dare is write something that was mine and no one could take it away from me. And if I had to make it in this loft here, I would make it here. So I when I had my idea, I got together with Johnny Grant, my co-writer, who'd written a brilliant film called The Nobodies, which is how I met him, and said, do you want to write this with me? And within a month we had a really solid script, sent it out, and we got so much interest because it was a very commercial horror movie in that sense. That it was different, it was similar to stuff, it was very strict in its style. People go, well, it's very Saw-led, but it's not. It's much more psychological than that. But at least you know what box to put it in. There's a big audience who love those type of movies. So great, now you can sell it. You can already pre-sell a movie like that. And I was very lucky that Julian Kostov, my producer, said, well, look, I've worked in Bulgaria with this studio there. Can I pitch it to them? I went, well, of course, yeah. They did. A month later, they came back with a brilliant review from their script writers who, really highly rated it. And I said, brilliant, is this happening? And they went, no, we're not making a movie like this right now. So we let it go. And then I found an investor here, and we were going to make it for around $100,000, and it was going to be really difficult in terms of how we were going to do that. And there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of practical effects. It's very difficult to make a movie like this for that money that doesn't look cheap, if you like. So we went back to the studio. I said, Julian, let's go again. Let's ask them again and say, we've got someone here. We won't tell them how much for, but they want to make the movie. So this is your last chance. And the exec producer said, if Giles flies over to Bulgaria tomorrow, I will see him and we'll discuss it. I booked a flight straight away. I literally went, okay, I'm booking a flight. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm flying into the unknown, literally. And I met him in a hotel. And I was like, this is so weird. And I pitched him the dare, and I really went to town. And he was like, okay, cool. Go have a look around the studio and let me know if you think you could shoot there. Now, like I mentioned before, this studio is the best studio, one of the best. It's gorgeous. New York Street, London Street, sets coming out of its ears, Antonio Banderas walking around. And he turns to me after I've wandered around, been given the full amazing tour, walked on the Hellboy set. And he goes, do you think you could shoot the dare here? And I went, I think I could, yeah. And it took another 6 months from there before I flew to Bulgaria, and then spent 3 months in prep there, making storyboards, really making sure this movie could work from all the effects, how you could make a movie like this and not make it look cheap, especially on the budget we had, which is really low for what they normally make movies for, like really low. So for them, it was just that, all right, you guys get on with it, which was brilliant for us because we could just get on with it. And we did. And it was the most challenging, hardest, scariest, frightening, wonderful shoot that you could do. I didn't sleep. I was mentally drained. I overthought everything. I planned to in an inch of its life and then rechanged it on the day as you should, and was creative as hell. And I had a brilliant DP, Andy Roger, the only Englishman, from the crew who flew over from the UK. And I've learned not to be as, mental, as obsessed, but yeah. I made a movie that I'm very proud of, and I made something that does stand up and you can get away with, stuff. And I'm over the moon. But it took, like I say, it took so long to come to the screen, and still not here in the UK yet. But I would never take that experience away. I learned so much about how to make a film.
There must be an amazing feeling finishing your first feature.
I remember the premiere in Chicago, no, Miami. So in the Popcorn Frights Film Festival in Miami, and this is the first time anyone really outside of, again, our bubble had seen the movie, and it's in a packed cinema at this amazing festival. And there's the Quiet Place writers there, and there's Dread Central, and there's all these amazing horror people, and it's a room full of horror fans, dressed up horror fans, and I am absolutely cacking it. And I have to do my presentation at the beginning, and I'm trying to be anyway intelligent and funny in English because they're all American. Look, please like me, so therefore they might like the movie. And I went and sat at the back, and I just watched the movie like clenched teeth. There's all the bits that we had to take certain bits out that were skin pulling bits, that were really like eyes gouging bits that the censors wouldn't have. We couldn't get the movie out unless they said you take these out. So I'm watching these bits going, oh no, but it looks so good. These guys would love it. And there was a guy not far away, right at the back of the cinema, eating really loud popcorn. And I'm like giving him daggers, please shut up. But it was at the end of it, getting an amazing round of applause and getting that feeling, and going up and everyone coming up afterwards and shaking your hand, and that incredible feeling. And we won the audience award of the festival as well, which was just breathtaking. And the fact that anyone likes this movie, the fact that anyone goes and sees it and writes nice reviews, and even the people who write bad reviews, whatever, they've watched it. And the fact that I've got people watching my movie is just, you can't take that away. You can't. It's the best thing in the world.
I'll tell you something as well, apart from maybe like the sci-fi nerds, I guess, you'll not find a more hardcore group of fans than horror fans.
They will kill you. If they don't like it, they will kill you. They will tell you, because they've seen all this. They've seen every movie. They've seen the best, the worst. They know. So to even be talked about in any way, shape or form as part of that is a blessing. It's an absolute blessing. And the fact that there's talk of a sequel is just, it doesn't compute in my tiny brain,
I love it.
Just great.
So as you did that day in Bulgaria, obviously don't give us the exact one because it would have been like full on in-depth and everything. What is the elevator pitch for the dare?
So the dare is a beautiful, heart-wrenching, gore-fest, decidedly wicked horror movie for the fans who love those kind of movies, about one man's struggle to regain any kind of faith in himself as he's trapped in a basement, or is it a basement, with 3 other people who are chained to the walls, and they've all got skin peeled off them in various states of distress, and some thing keeps coming in the room and making them torture each other. And all the while, there's someone upstairs and there's a young kid, and this tantalizing story of, will the kid save them? What is happening? How is it all connected? Why are they all there? Is really what the heart of the dare is about. Is, will he escape? Will they survive? And why are they there?
God, that was good.
Thanks, just made it up.
There's a reason you do podcasts. That's fantastic. I am massively looking forward to this. Like I say, I've been listening to the filmmakers for a while now, and every time you kind of mentioned Arthur and Merlin, I'm like, oh, an Arthur and Merlin movie, I'm definitely going to give that a watch because, you know, British.
Sure.
But The Dare has always been one that I'm fascinated to see what you've done with. And you have Richard Brake in there, who... Richard Brake's a legend. Like, I'm a big fan of Richard Brake from a lot of the Rob Zombie movies. He's just absolute, just... He's just got a face, if you know what I mean.
He's got a face. He's got a face, thankfully.
But you know what I mean. He's just got one of those faces that you love every time he turns up.
I really wanted him to play the role of Credence. I really, even though technically it should be a bigger guy, what really works is Richard brings that commanding presence and that amazing allure. You'll have seen him as Joe Chill in Batman. You'll have seen him as Knight. Was it the Night King in Game of Thrones? Yeah, so he's just one of those faces, as you say, who's been around, and I was delighted to get him, and he was a joy. Hence why I said, do you want to come and do Merlin and Arthur and Merlin? And he said that.
How did you get him on the Dare? How did you go about getting Richard Brake, or was it just word of mouth that he said, I'll do it?
No, it was quite an interesting process because he was up for meetings. So as if you can't audition someone like that. You probably could, maybe, you know, if you're certainly a bigger director, you probably could. Yeah. But for my debut movie, I can't be auditioning people who've worked so much and, you know, at that level. So I sent him the script. He really liked it, and I was so delighted. And then we met up and we talked about the character and what I would do with it and why this is happening and what his journey is. And his concern was, I played characters like this, and I don't want to be typecast, even though he's these wonderful roles a lot in that world. And I said, no, this is something different because this is a much more thinking character. He's not an out baddie. He's got heart and soul, even though all we're seeing is that top level. But what I want from you is the other side, is the inside of this man who looks horrendous, who looks like he's stealing children, who looks like he's potentially torturing people. What is it that you can bring me that I want to see from you in this character? And I think that sold it, and I think he then was over the moon. And it was a joy to work with him. It was an absolute pleasure to have him on set, and he was brilliant with the kid, you know, the young Mitchell Norman, who brilliantly plays young Dominic. And it was just a delight to watch those two go head to head because this kid's fantastic. And yeah, they brought these scenes to life that just were great.
Cool, man. He's phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So I was having a little look through your IMDb. And I noticed that although you can't really, it doesn't seem like you can confine yourself to a genre. You seem to touch on a little bit of everything, like acting and directing and all that. It does seem like horror is a little bit more of your wheelhouse. Would you say that's correct there? Are you a bit of a horror hound?
I certainly wasn't. And it's only when I started acting in some, and again, I've done comedies and romantic comedies and football dramas and, you know, whatever else as an actor. And then I started to do the horror side, and I was never a big fan. It wasn't a huge fan. I'd watch them, but I'd always be like, oh, I'd rather go watch something else. And when I started acting in them, I then suddenly went, oh my God, these are amazing, aren't they? This is, God, to act in a horror film, it's a different level. You've got to be, there's a certain switch, because you can't phone it in. You can't get away with it. Yeah. You have to be on, if someone's torturing you, you have to be there. Yeah. Oh my God, that's draining and really difficult. I remember one night coming home after shooting, it's called The Torment in the UK, but it's a possession of David O'Reilly in the US. And I came home from one night shooting that, I'd just been rocking backwards and forwards in the scene, dribble, and I've been seeing these monsters, and no one knew if they were real or not. And I'm playing this really tortured character. And I came home and I literally almost had a panic attack and struggled, and my hands were shaking. I couldn't sleep, and I was rocking on my own. And I thought, what? That's what goes into making a movie like that. And actually that level of keeping that level up of, Scream Queen, to do that role, it's really, really difficult. People don't give women or men who play those roles any credit at all. It's really difficult to keep up that constantly, right? Go again. You get blood splattered all over you, and that stuff's sticky and it's horrible. And you've got to have it on you all day and crawl around in the mud and keep screaming. And you try it for 5 minutes. Good luck. So, yeah. So I was never really a massive horror hound until I started doing them, and then when I started trying to make movies as a director and producer, I started doing sci-fi and drama and anything else. And horror was a way in, to be honest, at first, we could go make a horror, like I say, in my basement, and I don't have one. If I did, you could do that, or you don't need big names in horror, so therefore you don't need to do that whole rigmarole of trying to cast Jason Statham or whatever. You can just go shoot it with some brilliant actors. That was the journey. That's why we said, let's do the dare, or why I said, let's do a horror, was that reason, because it seemed easier. The answer is it's not. It's much harder because, like I say, you've got to keep up that level. You've got the horror hounds have to love it. You've got a hard audience to please. You have to be thinking on your toes and do something different and original. If you've got a story set in Durham about 4 kids who wander the street, well, okay, you can shoot that. There's no, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to struggle over there. But if you've got limbs falling off and you've got blood squirting out and and rooms falling apart, you've got to make that look cool. That's tough. And it's a drain and a strain. So no, it wouldn't be my first choice as a movie, but as to make a movie about any genre. But interestingly, then obviously World of Darkness is horror, The Dare's horror, and Serial Killers is a horror. I just think it worked that way. But people try and put you in a box as a filmmaker or an actor, and if, like, Richard Brake gets put in the horror box, which is why I think he was delighted to come and do Arthur and Merlin, and why I was too, is because I'm going to do a historical action now. I'm going to do something a bit different that has my themes and what I want to bring as a director to it, but also is different. It's out the wheelhouse, like you say, of the horror. So I'm obviously going to do more horror, of course. That's what I've been offered, but I've also been offered some musical romantic comedies. So
nice.
Okay. I didn't want to be pigeonholed, but agents and managers, they wanted to be pigeonholed because it's easier to put on a poster from the director of The Dare. But you can't do that on Arthur and Merlin because people will go, what? I'm not watching that movie, So, so that's why they do it. It makes sense. It's easier.
So we're going to jump on to Arthur and Merlin in a second, but I do wonder, I always wonder this, and I guess you kind of answered it a little bit when you said about when you're doing the long days and you went home and you were sort of shaking and panicking and everything like that. When you're making a horror movie and then you come to the edit and everything, and then you come to watch the final product, are you sort of desensitized to the gore aspect, the fright aspect, or do you still get those moments?
Most of the time you are totally immune to it. There was certain stuff I'd show my family or whatever, and they'd be literally like, you sick bastard. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't think it was that bad. But you've got someone's stomach being ripped out or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I suppose you're right. But when you're making them, you don't think of it that way because you knew how difficult it was to make. You knew how hard how terrible that dummy looked, or how that arm didn't look like a real arm. There's no blood coming out. And like, how are we going to make this work? So you're praying it works. What other people are seeing is someone's skin being ripped apart or someone's eyeball being taken out. They know it's not real, but you're giving the impression. So that's the best advice you can give anyone, is give the impression that this is real. So you cut around the bits that don't look good. You take moments and snippets. Wow, yeah, that I find it all really fascinating, but I am immune to, you do get immune to it once you've made it, because you just see the faults, you see the problems. But there is one nail moment in The Dare that gets me every time. Even I've watched it probably thousands of times, and then we put sound on it, and it gets me every time, because it's one of my things. You just go, oh my God, that's horrible.
It's one of those genres that I won't watch behind the scenes or featurettes or anything like that because I really don't want to see how it was done.
Yeah, because it does ruin it. It does. You sort of go, oh, right. Well, yeah, I can see now why you didn't think it looked any good or looked average. Because it's just someone behind the scenes sort of slowly going, oh, how are we going to get the eye out? I can't. Oh, hide it with your hand. Yeah, but it doesn't look real. It doesn't matter. And that's amazing. And waiting for CGI and going, oh God, editing a movie on green screen must be a nightmare. It must be an absolute nightmare because you're not seeing anything until the green screen's in, until you put that in. Yeah, fascinating. I think the whole thing's fascinating. Filmmaking's just the best and the worst. Yeah.
Oh, because I'm not part of it.
You are, though.
So, okay, I'll give you that. But moving on from saying before that you've not really been pigeonholed at all. You've got this awesome horror movie happening, and then in a couple of weeks, I think you said it was July the 13th, you have a fantasy folklore British Arthurian legend, and this is one that, yeah, I do love a good King Arthur story. I'm all into that kind of thing. So when I got sent it, I was like, yeah, I'm watching that. God, right, I'm watching that. Plus, yourself was on it. I see Richard Brake's name in there. Friend of the show, Chris Johnson's in there. So I'm like, yeah, I'm watching this flick. So this is why we're here.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to talk about. How did King Arthur and Merlin come about for you?
So I've known the producers, Lucinda Roadsacker and Jeep recently, but Lucinda for a long time. We did I'll call it a BAFTA-winning web series. It was the first of its kind, if you like, called Kate Modern, and it was one of these successful web series that no one really heard of, but yet weirdly it just numbers kept racking up. And it was a follow-on to Lonely Girl 15, which was the US version of a girl blogging, and everyone thought it was real. And then it turns out she was an actress doing it, but the show still became popular. We were the English version of that, basically. And we met on that. And over the years, we just stayed in contact and talked about stuff. And then obviously I found out she was producing and she knew I was directing, and we talked about projects. And we nearly made something else together before Arthur and Merlin. And then, yeah, Arthur and Merlin got pitched, and yeah, I pitched for it and said what I wanted to do to Signature, who are the distributors and sales agents and people behind the movie. And yeah, eventually they said, yeah, okay, go move it, go make it. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And we spent a bit of time working on the script and making it right and casting it and getting that right and finding the right locations and finding out how we could actually do it, when it's difficult. But yeah, we did. And there is a movie, and I'm proud of the movie. There's a cool...
This one didn't take 4 years to come out.
No, I know. Well, this is amazing because I shot this in October of 2019, wow. And it's now out in July 2020. So that is literally the most 9 months, and the Dare's going to be 4 years before it's out in the UK. And yet, Arthur and Merlin, we had a deadline, and we stuck to that deadline, and that's when it was going to be coming out earlier than this as well. So yeah, but we had to stick to those deadlines, and we did. It's incredible, isn't it? How fast you can turn around a movie if you really want to. Yeah.
So as a British director and as a Brit, should I say, how was there any sort of pressure on you, because this is a King Arthur story, and us Brits are precious about our folklore and stuff like that. Yeah. So was there any extra pressure on you to make sure that you told this story, and got it right and made it good? I don't think so. No. I think because there's been so many King Arthur stories, there's been so many, and the Guy Ritchie one everyone remembers recently, that I don't think anyone minded. I think more people are going, another one? Really? And you just go, well, yeah, another one. But like I say, I wanted to tell a story that was slightly different and a bit more, like I say, with the heart that I described earlier. So, for me, it was a challenge. It was like, no, I reckon we can make something really cool here in the time we've got, with the budget we've got, and get some really great actors in here and make something that
could stand out and could be all right. Yeah, we've not got the Guy Ritchie budgets. Yeah, we've not got all the big special effects and all that stuff. But I'm telling a true, heartfelt story about, one guy's struggle to get back and be a king. All right, well, we can relate to that and let's do it. So that was my thinking, and that's why I thought we can do justice to this. And plus I could bring back people I'd worked with before on the Dare, or bring my brilliant DP back, and we knew that we could make something that was different and, like you say, out the wheelhouse, but that stands up and that you are proud of, and you go, yeah, we made that, look at it, yeah, we made that, thank you.
And you should be proud because, and I know this is what you've been waiting for.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. Drum roll, please.
365 seal of approval. Well, you've got it from me because I genuinely, I'm a big fan of movies like this. I'm not gonna tear someone's movie down on the podcast because that's not my bag. But the Guy Ritchie version is, and I feel like you've definitely. For me, it's better than the Guy Ritchie version.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll take that.
It was
better than the Guy Ritchie version by 365. That's on the poster, mate. I've just done it now.
I think you've done a great job with this, and it is like a British sort of story that everybody kind of knows, and I don't think you can have too many of it. Like it's something that people do relate to. We always relate to that story. And you have, as you say, the story of him trying to get back to rule his kingdom. It is fantastic. There's a lot of heart in there. And I thoroughly enjoyed this film. And I really want people to see it when it comes out. You mentioned your DOP there. This film looks gorgeous. It looks really nice, that's a big plus for any movie, really. But
absolutely, yeah.
If you can make did you film it in Britain? Because if you can make this country look that nice, you're already halfway there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we shot in Wales, and
definitely.
As far as I remember, it rained every day, but that did give it the gritty look that I wanted. I wanted to make a gritty movie that I wanted my actors to be in the mud and rolling around, and this is real. And what the actors loved, like Chris Johnson and Steve Uppel and Ian Sharp and all the brilliant guys playing the knights, was that they just got stuck in. They're in the mud and trenches every day. If I'm out there in the rain, so are they. And we're doing it. And, as Richard Short, who plays King Arthur, said to me at one point, I said, mate, you all right? He said, are you joking? He said, I'm sat on a horse with a sword. Everyone's going, hail, 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 King Arthur. To me, he said, I'm on top of the world, mate.
It is, though. It's like every kid's dream.
Totally. Playing King Arthur. We're playing Bedivere, playing, Sir whatever the hell it is. And that was probably one of their names. Is that this is... Who doesn't want to play a knight of the Round Table? Who doesn't want to be Guinevere? Who doesn't want to be King Arthur or Lancelot or Merlin or whoever? Because you're part of something really cool, and that's forever. And yeah, I hope that they love it as much as I do, and I hope that the cast and crew really appreciate, the film, because everyone worked so hard, and they really did on this, and I really hope that people love it. I really do.
Cast-wise, I think you've absolutely nailed it. I think everybody's perfect in their roles, and everybody does a really good job. But the one that I really, really want to shine a light on for a quick hot second, I'm a big fan of a world-class dick bag in a film. I am, and Joel Gilmore absolutely smashed that role. He was a world-class, just like I cannot be bothered with this guy. What an asshole.
Yeah. Do you know what? Joel was a powerhouse, and he's
definitely.
He came into the casting, and everyone kind of went. I think I'd seen his tape by that point. I had, and I went, "Oh, he's brilliant."
Yeah. And
he's 6'5", I think 6'6", and it's always an issue. Sadly, when someone's that big, and girls often, actresses are around, 5'4", 5'6". So if you're playing Guinevere opposite him, you've got an issue with your camera angles. And Joel knows this, and it's one of these things. But he delivered in that audition room. It was just so good. And I just went, he's going to bring so much to this role. I have to cast him. This is going to work. We'll make it work with the camera. It's not a problem. Yeah. We can do this. And yeah, he he just blew me away every day. And we played with the character, so he wasn't one note. We really got in depth on it and said, let's make him, what's the reason why he's a dickbag, and let's play on that. And it was just a joy. Someone like him on set is a joy and just wonderful to work with. And so I'm so glad you singled him out. He's fantastic.
It's kind of one of those. It was one of those moments. I'm sitting watching it and I'm loving everyone in it, and everybody's great. And then there's I think it's a scene where he sort of slumps into the throne for the first time, kind of thing, to see how it fits. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, you're just so good. and he's not really saying anything. I'm just, he's great. I like that with actors and with performances. I'll often take dialogue out. If you don't need to say, I feel good in this chair, you don't need to say it. I think a lot of movies fall down when they say the things that we as a visual audience can see. We know he's looking good in the chair. You know he feels good. He's doing it with his body. It's like Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, they don't say that. And so, taking away all that, so he just sits and feels amazing in the chair. Yeah, I love that scene. It's great. And Antigone, for me, Jennifer Matter as well, playing opposite him, just delightful. Stella Stocker playing Guinevere. All those scenes in the castle, there's some of the first stuff, I think. In fact, I think that was all the first stuff we did in that castle bit with Joel and with Stella and with Jennifer. Yeah, so it was all that early stuff. For me, was really finding the characters was wonderful. But you also in this movie get to flex your sort of directing some action shots as well, and some fight sequences and some swords getting swung around. How cool was that?
It was so cool. Yeah. As you can imagine, there's always issues on a movie like this where your knights are fighting people. You need people who can work a sword, or at least, swing it in the right way. And we got some amazing people, but occasionally we needed another face. So you'd bring in someone who might not be that good with a sword, or which totally makes sense, was scared of Chris Johnson swinging a sword at them, because Chris Johnson looks like a scary mother, and he's swinging a sword at you. You're gonna either block that with your sword or you're gonna get hit. And we just got some beautiful shots of people who'd I'm come on set for a bit of fun. Suddenly they're in an outfit playing a bad guard, and they've suddenly, here's a sword that you've got to block shots from Chris Johnson. Good luck, have fun. You know what I mean? So I'll get headbutted by Chris Johnson. It's one of those things you're like, okay, this is going to be fun. But no, doing all the action stuff is it's so difficult. There's no question about it. But if you plan it right, and do all that kind of stuff in the right way, it's going to look great. And you get people who are really happy to, do it. And like I say, the knights looked amazing. You can't mock, their amazing costumes and their makeup and how they looked and held swords and felt. Of course they're going to look cool. But yeah, it was so much fun to direct that stuff. But it just takes longer because you've got to make it look right. You've got to make sure the hits look like they hit. Yeah. And we also didn't want to just have swords hit, clash. I wanted to mix it up so some were really good with fists or good with, headbutts, Chris Johnson, or with, whatever else they were good at. I didn't want it to just be one note. So yeah, that was just difficult. But again, everyone pitched in. Drew, who did the stunts, was fantastic, and he really just went, hey, right, okay, let's see what we can do. Who's good at this? Right, let's do that, throw that. And then you put it together, and then you try and capture it the best you can. But we didn't have much time to capture a lot of that stuff. So you end up running around trying to capture all the best bits as quick as you can.
Like I say, I think you've done a fantastic job with this movie. Is this a realm that you would like to, like you say, you possibly may have a sequel to The Dare coming? Would you run with this again and do another King Arthur story, or of that same?
Totally. Yeah. Totally, yeah. And the realm is a good word. Knights of the Realm. Totally, yeah. There's talk. Let's see what happens. But yeah, I don't see why not. It's something we can do. It's something we're good at in terms of we're like, okay, we know what we're doing on this now. Right, let's see how we can make that better. Work on this. But yeah, whether there's a sequel to this, it's kind of potentially set up that way. But no, there was never. Originally, I think when Simon Cotton wrote the first, brilliant draft, it was always set up to do sort of a 3 movie, but I think later on we said, no, let's keep it contained just in case they don't happen. We didn't want it to be. But yeah, I think let's see, shall we say.
And Emily Haig as well.
Yeah, well, because Emily was in the Dare for me, so she came and
nice.
When we were doing some flashback moments, I got her to come, and I didn't know her. She auditioned, she was fantastic, and I got her to come across to Bulgaria and shoot some bits for me. So when I was looking for a Lady of the Lake, I was on set, and I think it was a last minute sort of things, just one of those things, and I think someone came across and said, right, we've got 3 options for you, Giles. Who do you like? And 3 people came up with their names. So I went, oh, Emily's on there. Oh, Emily, cast Emily. Great, let's do this. Didn't even have to audition. Emily's great. Yeah, no, Emily's in. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I was over the moon. She was even, up for it. And I was like, yes, of course, let's get her in.
It's a name that keeps crossing my desk, and I keep seeing her popping up in things. And
well, she's a trooper. She's one of these people she's a doer. And when you're a doer, things happen for you. So whether you're an actor, producer, director, screenwriter, if you're out there and going to events and going to meetings and turning up and stuff and creating your own stuff and putting them on places, you're going to get seen, you're going to get noticed, and people are going to pay attention, and suddenly you're going to find yourself in many more movies because of it. And she's one of them.
No, she seems to be an up and comer for definite.
For sure.
So, do you obviously you've had the Dare and you've done Merlin, but you did a lot of acting beforehand. Do you ever feel like maybe having yourself in these movies?
Like I mentioned, the first thing I ever directed, that pilot for the BBC, I was in because we'd written it, or the team had written it for us all to be in it. That was the point. Yeah. When I directed myself in that, I felt like such a tool, and it's probably my worst performance. Who knows? Hey, some people will probably say not, but I just didn't enjoy that feeling of going, right, close upon me now, and it's my own issue. It's my issue, and people who do it brilliantly well. Maybe there's a point to doing that, but I just love being behind the camera so much that when suddenly I'm not, I'd feel out of control. And in terms of, I'm now on set with the actors, and there's a very difference between when you're in front of the camera with that camaraderie with the actors to being behind the camera when you're literally calling the shots, and to suddenly go in front again and then be like, okay, well, how did that look? Let's go and have a look how that looks. Could I be better? And am I watching other people's performances? Am I directing them as I'm acting opposite them? And at the moment, I don't feel like doing that. Maybe I will one day, but there's not a burning passion for me to do that. But maybe I'll stick myself in the next one and do a small cameo or whatever. My voice is in the Dare. There's bits of me in the Dare in terms of something else, and my hands are in Arthur and Merlin.
Well, I mean, you've got to have your Hitchcock moments. So
yeah, totally, yeah. Maybe. Do I? Maybe. You don't want to be the Quentin Tarantino who turns up and ruins it, though, do you? You know what I mean? It's no offense to him, he's a brilliant filmmaker, but every time, really, Quentin? Really? You can do an accent this time? Okay.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I'm going to agree with you there.
Yeah, we don't like to slag the lad off, but you know what I mean? He's doing all right. He doesn't need that.
Let's be honest, he can take a slap.
He can take a slap now and again.
Well, obviously, we can't say a massive great deal about Arthur and Merlin because it's coming out in a couple of weeks. But if you were going to try and sell it to people, and I really do want people to watch this, what would be your sort of go out and watch it, other than saying that?
If you like stories that have heart, that have a meaning and a journey, and that are action-filled with history, and you can tell I'm making this up, and with romance and... yeah, I think that's it. Then you'll love this. I think Arthur and Merlin is one of these stories that I hope sits with you afterwards, and you can really connect with in some way when you're watching. And I feel that the journey is different to other Arthur and Merlin movies, other Arthur stories. And I feel that this is a story that needed to be told. I think it's a really lovely, heart-affirming, heartbreaking story about Arthur's journey, and brilliantly portrayed by Richard Short, and I love what he brought to the role, and I highly recommend people watch the damn movie.
I've not really mentioned Richard Short there, and I do feel bad about that because he is fantastic in the film, and he does bring like quite a lot of different levels to the performance, which was nice to see. And so Richard Short does deserve a good shout out there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously he's been in The Dare as well. And it's not like people say, oh, you're just maybe necessarily using the same people. Maybe, but also if you work with people really well, why would you not work with them again? You know, as much as I'm often giving people a chance and let's bring you in, and I'm 100%. But if there's roles you think someone's right for, and Richard Short being, you know, he's been in lots of big movies, and at the moment he's doing Macbeth with Denzel Washington. So, you know, directed by Joel Cohen. So it's going to come out soon. So why not have someone like that in your movie? So if you can, and he did me a favor, like say, and said, all right, I'll come across and do this. He didn't have to, that's for sure. But he loved the story and wanted to play King Arthur. So.
And let's be honest, yeah, Martin Scorsese's, Quentin Tarantino, they all cast the same people.
Totally, yeah. But I'm totally open to new people and get constant requests, castings, and people sending stuff all the time to me, Showreel. So I'm totally open to new people.
So that's Arthur and Merlin, which I can't wait for people to see, and it comes out, and I will be trying to push it as much as humanly possible. I have a review all written up already.
Have you really? Oh wow!
It's sat on the website, but I'm not posting it yet. Give me a second.
Okay.
It will be coming out. I think you'll be happy with it.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
But another movie that you didn't direct, but you did produce, and it's a movie that I watched recently that again, just fantastic film, was Serial Killer's Guide to Life, man. This film, jeez, loved Serial Killers. How did you become involved in that project, and what was your part on it?
So I've known Staten, Cousins Row and Poppy Row for years and years. Me and Poppy did a mattress advert together. So we met on that, and then me and Staten were in a movie together that, it's devastating. It was they remade the movie as a movie about how not to make a movie that Danny Dyer starred in, and it was such a shame because the movie was great. Anyway, me and Staten met on that. You'll probably know what it is, but I won't bore people with that. And we just became friends over that time, and we were all actors, and you know, trying to find our way. And Staten started to say, "Oh no, I'm going to sort of direct stuff," and I was starting to direct stuff, and we ended up helping each other on our short films and just first ADing or doing bits and pieces. And so when he said, I'm going to make the BAFTA long-listed, where did he go? Everywhere short film called This Way Out. He said, I'm making this. Do you want to come and first AD and produce it? I said, yeah, of course, to help him out. And we did. And like I say, it did so well as a short film. He then said, cool, I've got this feature. Would you come and produce it with us? And it's called, at the time it was called Self-Help. And I read it and said, Staten, this is fantastic. Of course I will. I said, how much are you paying me and where do you want me? He said, right. Obviously there was no money. It's a low budget movie, but it was so much fun to go and work with a very talented director as a producer. But it was really interesting to just produce and not be creative. So as much as you're being creative, but you were much more hands-on with where the food went, how the trucks went from there to there, how the actors got from this place to that place. And I produced it with Charlie Wakefield as well. We shared the duties, as well as Staten and Poppy obviously produced the movie, but Poppy's obviously leading it, Staten's directing it. So they had a lot of other stuff going on. So we helped them produce the movie. And it was a 2-week shoot, and everyone just got stuck in. And most of the time I was ringing around trying to get crew. You were going, well, I've got another job this day, I'm doing this day. So you'd end up trying to find a focus puller and ringing around and doing all sorts of stuff, clearing out toilets and stuff. And it was just one of those jobs. But I am so proud of A Serial Killer's Guide to Life. I think Staten did an amazing job. And you can tell by the reaction it's had and by the fact Arrow picked it up and it's now on Sky Movies and it's on Showtime in the US, that for a movie made for 60 grand, it is, you know, a massive achievement, and everyone's really proud of what we did on it. So yeah, for me it was eye-opening and a joy, and me and Staten will of course be working on other stuff. So
it's a funny one because I remember seeing Self-Help, but I can't, not Self-Help, sorry,
This Way Out, short, yeah, This Way Out, yeah.
I can't remember how I came across it, but I remember, did I get sent it? Anyway, I saw the short and I loved the short, and they were kind of like saying that they were doing a Kickstarter to try and fund the movie and everything like that. And when the Kickstarter went live, I was throwing it all over the Twitter and all over the Facebook. I was just trying to help as much as I could because I thought the short was just superb. And I didn't actually realize that you were part of it as a producer until much later on. And I was kind of like, Jesus, this kid just gets everywhere. It was cool to see you were part of that. And I think the film is it's another brilliant project that you're part of. And you're definitely, for someone who may have taken the time to get there, and you've had 3 or 4 movies coming out in a short period of time, even though you kind of made one of them a long time ago, you're definitely making it now. Like, your projects that are coming out, every single one of them is hitting and hitting and hitting, and it's great to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm over the moon, but I'm still learning. I'm still getting better. I'm still trying to find my way, and I think everyone should feel that way. Really, you should. If you think, "Oh, I made it, I'm the best," no chance. And obviously, we look back at our stuff and go, "I could have done that, should have done that." Sure, but that's our journey and how we're learning. And if we can at least be making decent enough movies that people are happy enough to watch now, then hopefully in the future we can only get better. That's the plan.
And then in the meantime, you've got an awesome podcast.
So there is that. There is that.
Keeps you going. I guess that keeps you creatively going. And I'm assuming you did a lot through the lockdown, and you've got the
Make Your Film,
which I have. I'm going to be coming to the next one.
Are you? Oh, amazing! Yeah. What the online one or the live one?
Online.
Yeah, online, cool. Because we don't know when the live one is yet.
It'll be down there. I couldn't possibly.
Can't wait for you. But
it's a 5.5-hour trip.
Yeah. Well, me and Dom have been doing, because obviously we're doing the podcast. I was like, well, let's do some live events. Let's make it people in a room. And what we found that it was a brilliant networking night where people could come and chat and meet. You know, it's an amazing panel we had on, but also meet other filmmakers who were in the same boat. And from that, so many like-minded people have now gone off and made movies together. And that is amazing that we've done that. But also now, while we're in lockdown, we said, let's do some live ones. And let's do some online ones, sorry. And this is the 4th one. And yeah, with the amazing guest for this one, Todd Garner, who's obviously done massive Hollywood movies like Black Hawk Down. And by going online, it meant that we could get American people in. So we got the showrunner for Daredevil 2, not Daredevil 2, Daredevil as well. And yeah, so these Make Your Film events are brilliant, and I love them. And if anyone wants to be making films, and come along and listen, because you will learn something, and you will go hopefully be inspired at the end of it, and hopefully go out and make your film as well.
Yeah, I'm coming along to the next one. I won't lie to you. You dropped Todd Garner, and straight away I was like, yep, I'm going to that one.
Brilliant. That's great. Yeah, no, that'd be good.
Dom was laughing at us when I told him. I was like, come on, Con Air, I'm there.
Totally. Con Air, mate. Make Con Air. What more do you want than the man that made Con Air? That's so cool. So what an amazing movie. Yeah.
So I'm going to start wrapping up a little bit, but I do want to know what else Giles has coming up in the future. Anything you can tell us about? Or
it's a tricky one because there's a few projects that are about to go, and it's funny, when people say, "Oh, I can't talk about my projects because,"
yeah.
But it really is when you get to the point where I don't want to be one of these people who talk about a project and then it never happens. And I used to do that with the Nobodies quite a lot, and now I don't talk about it because I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Sorry, Johnny, but we don't know. That's the truth. I'd love it to, maybe one day. It's my passion, but. There's talk, like I say, the Dare sequel is potential, but how soon that will be. At the moment, there's money on the table, so let's see. There's another... I can't even say, but I've been offered, like I say, a musical. That's really fun. I've got my own really cool comedy that I have now got to a really good stage. We've got it with some really big producers. I've also got a Shakespeare that is a modern version that I don't want to say too much now because, hey, that sounds so ridiculous. But hopefully that will be moving. We've got some massive interest. But again, these things fall down. I've had so many projects over the years that get so close and fall down. But the one I can tell you about is Food for Thought, which is my documentary about the environment and about climate change and healthy eating, vegan lifestyle. Because I've been we did a crowdfunding form. We raised a really great amount of money that we could actually then go and shoot all the stuff we want to shoot. And we're now deep into post on that. So hopefully, hey, you never know, that might be this year that comes out, which would be incredible. So yeah, we know that one's actually definitely happening. The others, they might fall apart. So all I know is I've got my fingers in as many pies as I can, and I'm trying not to suck those fingers too much.
I like that a lot. Yeah, put that on your poster.
Thank you. I'll put that on my poster, right?
But yeah, it's
better than Guy Ritchie's King Arthur. 365 flicks. There it is, mate. It's done.
Please don't put that on the poster.
Mate, you're joking.
I've had better quotes than that.
I hope so.
Maybe one of my review, you never know.
Oh, hey. Oh, if there is, mate, I'll be over the moon.
Although I am now going to go and edit it and stick it in there.
Stick that in. Just add that in. Please.
But yeah, so before you go, do me a quick favour and make my job 10 times easier than it usually is. Let people know where they can find you, what projects they can find of yours, and why they should.
Definitely. First of all, if you're not subscribed to the 365 Flicks podcast, then you have to do that now. If you've not written a review yet, do that now, and thank him from the bottom of your heart for doing what Kevin does. You can find me at Giles Alderson on Twitter. I've said this so many times, it seems so weird. You can find the podcast at Filmmakers Pod on Twitter. I've got a website, gilesalderson.com, if you want to look at any of my previous shorts, promos. There's a load of stuff on there, trailers for my movies. But yeah, that's where mainly I'm on Insta at Giles Alderson as well. So yeah, putting stuff on there all the time, talking about stuff. And yeah, if you like how films are made, then listen to the Filmmakers Podcast and support what we do and support every indie filmmaker. And yeah, if you don't like something, as we talked about earlier, just don't review it. Shut up. You know? But if you do, shout it from the rooftops, because indie filmmaking is really hard. So anyone who makes anything, it's a miracle. So yeah, just be aware of that.
It's much like you said earlier. The reason you kind of got into the Filmmakers Podcast and everything like that, it's pretty much the same reason I do this. You're right. It does take a lot to make a movie, and we've heard from people. We've heard that not necessarily their struggle, but their journey to getting the movie out there. And sometimes it can be hard. And recently, because of the lockdown, I've been going through our catalogue a little bit, and it was I wouldn't say it's depressing, but there was a couple of episodes that I look back at and I'm like, that movie never actually happened, you know. Yeah. And speaking to you tonight and being as open and honest as you are about like projects that may not happen or projects you've had that didn't happen, it sort of rings true. Like I've seen it over the podcast we've done. Like, damn, that never, and that film sounded class.
It does. Well, it's all
about.
Yeah, it is. We had the writers of A Quiet Place and directors of Haunt as well, Beckham Woods, talk about that, and they said probably about 3% of our projects have been made, and even now, and these are the writers of A Quiet Place. And that says it all. So yeah, it's a miracle anything gets made. So champion them from the rooftops, and just if you don't like it, shut up.
I do like that. But that's why we do what we do, and that's why I'm super, super glad to have had you on tonight, because I do love a Filmmakers Podcast. It's one that since the day I started listening, I've not stopped listening to it. It's like I say, there's 3 podcasts that I listen to every week, and I make sure I listen to every week, and yours is on there. So having you on is a little bit of a treat for me.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that so much. It means the world. Thank you.
The train's in motion, and I think it's going to keep going.
Choo choo, baby.
Obviously, that's where I'm going to end it. That's how you end an interview.
How could you not?
Hey, everybody, this is Henno.
And this is Stephanie.
And we're from the Gotham Lights Podcast.
Also, the Orville Lights Podcast, sometimes.
They are 2 podcasts dedicated to the television show Gotham
and the Orville.
Now, where can they reach us, Steph?
I'm so glad you asked, Henno. You can find us on Twitter at Gotham Lights. You can also find us on Facebook, don't you know?
Don't you know?
Just by searching Gotham Lights GothamLifePodcast@gmail.com.
So that was Giles. That was awesome. Thoroughly enjoyed that. What a dude. What a guy. I really enjoyed speaking to Giles. He was so open and honest about a lot of the movies that he's been doing and working on, and he had a lot to say about, you know, just set life in general and how it's going to look coming out of this lockdown, and how much he loves being around filmmaking. You get a real sense from the guy that he does genuinely just loving being on sets, and he genuinely just loves filmmaking, which is so cool to hear from this guy. He's at the start of his career, like I say, 3 films dropping all roughly at the same time. This man's going to go far. We're going to keep an eye on him. We're going to try and push him as much as we can. Please do listen to his podcast. He is an awesome guy. Yeah, moving forward, we've got some more absolutely cracking interviews coming up. I've managed to score an absolute stormer. This is going to be a big one for me. I'm really super excited. He's been releasing some films over the last 3 or 4 years that I just absolutely adore. So I can't wait for you guys to get a hear of this one. I'm not going to say who it is. Look at the Facebook, look at the Twitter. You might get some clues. Look at all that. Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to hear this next. Well, maybe the next one or maybe the one after, but I can't wait for you to hear it. It's going to be awesome. We will be back with our regular schmegular very soon. Hopefully, Chris and I will both be in the booth staring at each other across the table lovingly. You know, it's been a while since we sat down together in the booth. So, yeah, it's all been over Zoom and Skype and everything else. But it'll be nice to actually sit down across the, of course, 2 meter distance from each other. We probably won't have face masks on. That don't know if that would work for audio purposes. But we might have, like, shields in front of us. You know, those face shields that everybody's wearing. We might do a bit of that. Probably not, though, because it's fuss and nonsense. So we will be back very soon. But I am going to leave you now. All I'm going to say at the end of this is get yourself over to the iTunes, find the Filmmakers Podcast, give it a listen. There's some great episodes on there, and he's interviewed people that we've had on the show as well, the likes of Corey Greenup, the likes of Tom Payton, Paul Knight. We've had all those guys on. He has them on as well. It's all about sharing the love and just pushing each other, and independence where we are, independence who we are, so let's just keep pushing it. I absolutely love speaking to these guys. Giles is no different. He has got some cracking projects out there. Can't wait to see the Dare. Gonna leave it there. Just go and watch the go and listen to the podcast. And like I said, July 13th, which is about a week away. Please do on VOD, DVD, whatever you can, grab Arthur and Merlin. Richard Brake's in it. He's fantastic. Richard Shaw as Arthur is just incredible. Chris Johnson, good friend of the show, he's in there as Bedivere, awesome. And Joel Fillimore, the young dickbag of the movie, as I like to say. Yeah, he's going places. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bounce now. Quick shout out for Break, the movie Break. Michael Elkin, I spoke to a couple of episodes back. That movie is premiering in a drive-in cinema style setting in August. That's going to be awesome. So yeah, a lot of good things happening. We're slowly coming out of the lockdown, and things are starting to look maybe a little bit the new normal. So that's all. Yeah, awesome. I'm going to go. I'm rambling. Giles, thank you for coming on. You're an absolute diamond. See you later.